Good morning, welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, if you saw the interview that we did with Martin, our friend subscriber from Scotland, he is the engineer mechanic that works with the police force in Scotland, and his job is to keep their vehicles on the road. And he mentioned in passing about how, well, let me go back. You may also have seen a video where a small boy was brought to us and he had an infection in his hand, and several of these fingers had become infected and it hadn't been treated. Well, ironically, they had actually been to the medical center in Taliban. No dressing. So while we were talking with Martin, I just in conversation with him, I said, you know, it would probably be a good idea if people were to send a Balikbayan box. I related to him our story of Mr. and Mrs. O, of how I'd mentioned that someone, when I watched a small child, I watched a little girl get a doll. This is a little Filipino girl, obviously, and she had never had a doll. She was like, I think, 5 years old, and she's looking at this doll in absolute wonder. And she eventually was very quickly surrounded by other little girls who were looking at, wow, you got a doll, this is just incredible. And I made the remark and said, you know, somebody could send a Balikbayan box just full of dolls and nothing else, and we would have no trouble spreading a great deal of joy around to hundreds of little girls that are in our society, in our community, and have never had a doll. Well, along that line, I said, when I was talking to Martin, I said, you know, if somebody had access to first aid and they wanted to do something really great, after I treated this little boy, we gave them, I think, 1,000 pesos to get some pills, which they brought a prescription to us, so we knew it was genuine, and it was the cousin of someone that we know. So we gave that money so that she would get the medication that the boy needed. But then you've still got this whole thing of, as a boy being a boy with an injured hand, which is just getting dirty the whole day, so it needs to be kept clean. So I did a makeshift bandaging of the hand in the hope that he would keep it clean, at least. So I said that, you know, if he came back on Sunday, then I'd renew the dressing, and hopefully we'll give the wound a chance to heal along with the medication. And in doing that, it opened up a suggestion from Martin, which would be one of possibly many suggestions that could be made. He said that any time that the police take a car out of commission, in other words, a car has met its required spell of duty, in their case 4 years. When a car comes out and it's had 4 years service, then it's decommissioned, and everything that's in there is decommissioned too. So they don't reuse things, because obviously in the West, and here actually as well, but it's not adhered to quite as much, and that is the shelf life. So when something reaches its shelf life, then it's no longer the product. It no longer meets its own, what can we say, its own standards. And part of this was the first aid kits that are in every police car has a first aid kit. Now, in many cases, probably the majority of cases, that first aid kit is never even opened. Now, let me show you what I'm thinking of for a first aid kit. Now that's actually, it looks a little bit messy, because one of the containers in there was not sealed properly, and it's leaked. So it's looking a little bit messy. But look, it's just a Ziploc bag. It's got in it, it's got some plaster, it's got pretty messy now. I'd have to take it out and clean it for it to be used. It's got, let me see, it had some pills in there which I don't know what they were, probably painkillers, and it's got antibiotic cream, small tube of antibiotic cream, a bandage, and a couple of other things. You know, well, Martin was saying that in the police cars they would have a pair of scissors, and we've had this too. We have had other first aid kits sent. Let me show you one. This one was sent, and we have this in our house, and this one was sent to us, I think, by either, there's mainly two people that send this kind of thing to us, Mr. and Mrs. O or Mr. and Mrs. Bean, and that was sent to us, and we keep it in the house, and that's what I used to treat that little boy. Now, we've found on other occasions, there was one case where at the home of the four little girls, when we went over there, we saw one of the little girls was limping, and the following week, kids are injuring themselves all the time here, so it's not unusual to see that a kid has had a little injury, stubbed a toe or something, right? So when we saw that, we didn't think too much of it, but the following week I saw that the little girl was still limping, and then I investigated and I looked, and lo and behold, her toes, the last two digits were going black, which is the sign that gangrene is either set in or it is very, very close. We got her to hospital very fast. We got that treated, her toes are fine, everything is good now. But the point that I'm trying to make is that probably a simple dressing, a simple first aid would have avoided all of that. But the idea of make that suggestion to a family in the Philippines who are struggling to get 100 peso worth of food, and that would be like suggesting a joyride in a UFO. So my thought to Mountain was that maybe someone would have access to fill a box. I don't care how big it is or small it is. If they filled a box with simple first aid kits, and even if someone out there had access to first aid booklets, these are things that we can give. As Martin said, you can go online and find out about first aid. That's not a problem, and I'll be doing that because I'm seeing that I should actually know more about first aid. My first aid experiences from when I was 15 and I was in the coal mines, and part of the training was that you had to be able to do first aid. That's a long time ago, okay? So maybe there is somebody out there who might feel inclined to send a box with some first aid kits, and we can put them to good use. Now, the follow-up to that would be that if we can get some booklets that we could give away. I'm talking very simple booklets. Look, this is not a first aid booklet, but look at it. It's real simple. And if say we were able to give a simple first aid kit to a family and some instructions on what to do, well, that would create a big change. Now, in addition to that, why not run some classes? So as soon as I get a little bit more savvy about first aid and feel that I can instruct other people, well, I can instruct somebody who doesn't know anything about first aid, because I'm just like 1 or 2 steps above not knowing anything. But I could show someone how to clean a wound and to put a dressing on it, that, especially if we can give some small tubes of antibiotics like the one you can see here. It's not a big thing. Look at my finger. Look at my finger and look at the tube. There's hardly anything in it. But then when you put antibiotic cream on, say with a cotton bud, you put a tiny little bit on there. So those little tubes, they last a long time, and we could help. We could help in a really practical way, and that wouldn't cost very much at all. To fill something like this, you can probably buy these for I don't know, for pennies or dollars. So that's a suggestion that I thought. Martin came up with a suggestion that he could contact his superiors when he gets back, because at the moment all of those first aid kits, which are much more comprehensive than our little Ziploc first aid, they're much more comprehensive, and because they've passed their time in the police car, never been opened, never been touched, they're dumped in the trash. So we are intent. Here's one of my favourite girls. Come on in, huh? You can come in. Look who it is. Why don't you sit in front here? So we will. Why don't you say hello?
Hello.
So we're thinking that maybe out there's someone who has a facility for all of this stuff, which may be very easy for them to put together, and which will be of such incredible use to us here. Now, if you think that, well, how much can it cost for you, Terence, to do this? Well, let me tell you that I wanted some band-aids. I was looking actually for 3 band-aids. We didn't have any first aid kits then. And I went around in Taliban, and I went to 3 drugstores to get band-aids. And I couldn't get a band-aid. So stuff that you take for granted is not to be taken for granted here. So, is there anything that you would like to say, Talik, before I end off?
This is a foreigner in the Philippines. Please like, comment and subscribe on our YouTube channel.
Thank you, Talik. That was wonderful. Better than I could do. And much prettier. Okay, so thanks for looking in. Bye for now.
Bye bye.